Hi everyone, how are you all doing today? So, okay, right, I can see few more to join. So let's give some time. Right, so what lesson we have to learn today? Can you all see the screen? Okay, so whatever the reply you need to give the new students, y'all can just type your answer in chat, right? So today we have to learn about time. What do you think about time? Do you have any idea? So when I say time, you will remember the clock, right? Yes. So clock is an important equipment just to learn about time, right? And you know that time is really precious. So we need to save time and we have to manage our time. That is really important in this case. Right, so let's see. First, we are going to focus on the units of time. Okay, so let me type it here. Units of time. What's the smallest unit that you see? So when you look at the clock, you can hear a sound, right? So it says tick, tick, the tick, tick sound. So what's that sound actually? You need to think about that. So that sound is counted as seconds. What do we say? Seconds, right? And that's the smallest unit that we have when we are measuring the time. Okay, so we have seconds, then we have minutes, which is a little bit bigger than the seconds. So when you see that the seconds are passing through, you will hear 60 times tick, 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 tick. So likewise, 60 times you will hear, right? So if 60 seconds is gone, that means 1 minute is gone, right? So 60 seconds is equal to a minute, right? And then how about 60 minutes? So let's say 60 minutes is gone, then that is equal to 1 hour, right? So let me type that. That is equal to 1 hour. So let me show you. Can you see the hands? You can see a thin one here. So that is the second hand, right? Second. And then you can see that is the second hand. Then we can see a longer one here, which is the minute hand. So that's the minute hand. And you can see the shorter one here, which is the hour hand, right? So you can see when the second hand rotates one round, you see the minute hand move just one position slightly. Okay, so you see that the minute hand move just a little bit, right? And when you see that the minute hand rotates in that way for 60 minutes, you see the hour hand moves from one number to another number, right? So you see when the second is rotating, when the second hand is rotating, you see the minute hand move just one part, okay? And when the minute hand rotates 60 minutes, you see the hour hand rotates from one number to another. So that understanding is really important in this case. So you have hours, and then when you have 24 hours, let's say you have 24 hours, when you have 24 hours, we called it as, what do we say? It's a day. So you need to know this relationship between the seconds, minute, hours, and days. So let's say you need to make a month. How many days do you need for a month? You need 30 days. So if you have 30 days, that is a month, right? And then if you have 12 months, you know that 12 months will be 1 year, right? So that's equal to 1 year. Let's just put year. So you need to know these relationships when it comes to months and years. And you know that these things are observed in a clock, right? Up to hours, you can see them in a clock, right? And then starting from days to year, you just see this in your calendar, right? You just see that there. So you know that these are the two things that we can see just to observe time. Right. So I think let's move on to the next one. Let me complete this one. Okay. So when you look at this page, can you see that they have given the calendar page here? And when you see the months, they don't have 30 days. So here we have taken basically it is 30 days. Normally, we take it as 30 days when we are doing calculations, but compared to the months, the days are different. Can you see January has 31 days, then February has 28. So compared to the months, you see the days are different. So they have given a table here for you to understand how many months are having 31 days, how many months are having 30 days and 28 days, right? So it is really important to learn a method just to find this, right? You don't want to memorize because I can teach you a method for this. So let me show you. So you can just look at your hands. I'm just drawing the fingers now, right? And then you will notice here a bone is jutting out on top of the fingers, right? So where you see the bone is considered as the months with 31 days, right? And then in between those bones, can you see a slope, right? There you consider as the months with 30 days, only 30 days, right? So let's start writing the number of days for those months according to the technique that I told you now. So January is 31 days, February should be 30 days, but February is a special month where we have only 28 days or where we have only 28 days or how many days? 29 days. Okay, so that's a special month. Right, so I'll just write that here. Other months are having 30 days or 31 days, but only February is having 28 days, and in some cases 29. So in which case it is 29 days? We called we call the year with 29 days as a leap year, right? That's a leap year. So it comes every 4 years. So in order to find a leap year, what you can do is you can divide the year by 4 And if you don't have remainders, then that's a leap year. So for an example, 2020, you can divide and see. You don't get remainders. That's a leap year. 2024, leap year. 2028 is a leap year. So what about 2006? Do you think that's a leap year? You can divide and try. Okay, so if you don't get remainders, then that's not a leap year. Right, so I'm going to clear this part and then let's just write down the months and the days, right? So for Jan, how many days do we have? You could see your bones. You can observe your bones and tell me now whether it has 31 days or 30 days. You need to observe the bones on top of your fingers, right? Okay. So January has 31 days. Then if you look at February, it has, you know that it's 28 or 29. If it's a leap year, it's 29. If it's not a leap year, you know that is 28, right? So how about March? I'll just put only the 3 letters. March has 31 days because you see that once you complete January here, then you just go with February and you see March, right? March is just on top of the bone, so it's 31 days. And then April, how many days do we have in April? 30 days. So just start counting it on your fingers. I mean, on top of the bones, right? And just tell me, or you can type it in the chats. Can I get your answers in the chat box? Yeah, try putting them. April. How about May? Yes, 31. June. July. 31. Very good. Okay, I can see few of them have have written all of them correctly. Excellent. Yes. So July 31. And how about August? I see errors in August. So let me tell you what we have to do here. Okay, so can you see that I have just ticked January, February, and March? So let's go ahead with that. Let's see how it works, okay? Right. So January, February, March. So April is going to be here, right? Where you see a slope, 1, 2, 3. April, May, June, July. Can you see we just end up here with July, right? And then you need to start doing the same thing in reverse. Okay? Including the bone over here. You need to start counting, including the bone over here, right? So you need to count this twice. You already did it for July, but you're going to do again for August. So how many days do we have in August? I'll just use a different color because we are coming in reverse. So August is going to be, how much is that? 31 days again. Then September, how many days? 30, very good. October, 31. Okay, I see answers for December as well now. Very good. So October, you know that. November, how much is November? 30 days. And then December. How many do we have for December? 31 days. Perfect. Right. So you will see this order once you start getting it through this technique. So remember this technique, start counting the months and just decide the number of days according to this technique. And do not memorize, make sure not to memorize, because you can use this technique to just find the answer. So I hope you understand that. Right. So moving on to the next concept that we have to study is you need to be familiar with these terms: decades, then centuries, and millennium. Okay. So do you remember the flow chart that we drew on top? So we just finished that flow chart with an year. Do you remember that? So 30 days forms an year, right? So we're going to start with an year now. We just ended up there. So year, from year, there are three categories that we are going to learn. Okay, let me put 3 lines. Okay, so one is decades, and the other one is centuries, and the last one is millennium. So can you see that I have just drawn the lines in different lengths, because decades is known as the period of 10 years, right? So that is decades. Then when we consider centuries, century is known as a period of 100 years, right? So a period of 100 years, you have 100 years during that period. So we say it is century, centuries, okay? And then if you have a period of 1,000 years, let's say you have a period of 1,000 years, right? Then we called it as a, what do we call? Period of 1,000 years. Yes, millennium, okay? So you will find these terms especially in history books, okay? So you'll be finding these terms there. And now here, you're just learning what is decades, centuries, millennium. There you just find these terms. Okay, so there is a connection between this and that you need to remember. Okay. Right. So let me take an example, then I'll explain you how it goes with decades, centuries, and millennium. So I'm just taking a random example. Let's say we have 1817. So if you have 1817, if you have this year, you need to decide the decades, centuries, and millenniums. So every 10 years, I mean, a period of 10 years is the decades, right? So you're going to take the 2 tens in both sides of this number. What are the 2 tens do we have here? So we have here 1810, because that's a 10, 1810. And we have here 1820. So 1817 is somewhere in the middle. Can you see that we just round up this number? Round up and round down. Okay. So we have 1810. How do we see that? Do you see 10 is having just 1 0? So what we did was we just made the ones place a 0. Then we got 1810. Then we need to look for the next 10, which is 1820. Okay. So we know that we have a period of 10 years in the middle, and there are 2 numbers. Now we are going to check if it is 10 years or not, right? So 1810, 1811, 1812, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. When you start counting from 1810, you will see that it's not 10 years. It's giving 11 years. So it's not matching with the definition of decades. We cannot have 11 years. We should have only 10 years. So what we do here is we need to start counting from 1811. Always we need to do that from 1811 to 1820. So the starting number should be always 1 in the ones place. So let's say you have 1821. You see from 1821 to 1830. Let's say you have 1871. You see from 1871 to 1880. That's how it goes. You might get an year in the middle, just like I gave 1817. So you need to look for the tens in both the sides, and you shouldn't forget to change this into 1. That should be definitely 1. The reason we make it 1 because we need only 10 years, but not 11 years, right? So when we take 1810, you can see including 1810, it is 11 years. So we don't take that, but we just do it in this way. So now let's write down the years that we got in both the sides. So we have 1811 and we have here 1820. So it's decades, right? So the time period of 10 years. So what you need to do is, if you need to find the decades, once you decide the 2 years, the period, so you have decided the period here. Did you see the starting year and the ending year? You need to pick the last one and see the numbers in front of the tens place, whatever the numbers you have in front of the tens place. Not including the tens place, right? Tens place, then the hundreds place, thousands place. So once you get those 3 digits, that means you're getting the decade there. Okay. So this is belonging to 182nd decades, 180, 182. So it is 182nd decades. Okay, so I'm going to keep the same example and show you that how can we, I'm going to show you that how can we decide the century for this one. So in order to decide the century, what you need to take, you need to think about that. Do you all have any answers? So what should be the number here and here? Think about it. I'll just give this one. It should be 100 years. The gap should be 100. Very good. Yes, you need to take both the hundreds. I can see that answer. So if it has 2 zeros for 100, that means, can you see? 100 is having 2 zeros. We just make these 2 zeros and write it here. But that's not the last answer. So, you know, this is 1900. And you need to change the ones place of this just because of the reason I told you. I told you that we cannot have, you know, that we cannot have 101 years. Okay, cannot be 101. So in order to keep it as 100 years, we take it as 181. So 18, and 1900. So once you decide the hundreds, which is in both the sides, you need to see the hundreds place here. Okay. So what's the hundreds place? So this is ones place, tens place, and this is the hundreds place. You need to take the second number and just pick the number in front of the hundreds place, including hundreds place and the number in front of that. So we call this is belonging to 19th century. Okay. So this is belonging to 19th century. and think about the millennium now. Okay, I want y'all to try this, and can y'all give me the answers in the chat now? Try the question to see. Right, let's see. Okay, I can see you can just directly give me the answers. I can see direct answers. Very good. Okay, let's see how it works. So if you have 1817, you need to see the 2000s in both the sides, right? So it's going to be 1000 now. So you need to have three zeros here. So 1 and 3 zeros. So instead of 817, you're just putting 3 zeros. So that is the first 1000 that you have. And what's the next 1000? 1817 is the mid number. So the next 1000 is 2000, right? 2 and 3 zeros. So I need to erase this and this because I'm going to find the millennium now. So I have 1000 and I have 2000. But you know that we cannot keep 1000 because we need only 1000 years, right? Only 1000 years, not 1001. Right? So we just keep only 1000 years. So we need to make this one as 1. And you see the numbers, including the thousands column, whatever the numbers you have in front of that. Okay. So that's how, if it is 1000 years of period, I mean, the time period of 1000 years, you see for the thousands place. If it is a time period of 100 years, you see for the hundreds place in centuries. If it is decades, you see for the tens place. So here it is millennium. I need to look for the 1000 place and the numbers in front of that. I have only 2, right? So we consider this as the second millennium. Second millennium. So I hope you got this method, and you can just try and see the questions, and it is too simple. So what we'll do is, let's try one question to see if you can do it, right? Right. So let's look at this in order to build up your confidence to see if you can do it. So I'm expecting you to try this before the break, and then you can do the rest after the break, okay? Right. Choose the leap years from the years given below. So you need to divide it by 4 and see if it is a leap year or not. That's too easy, right? So let me pick one from this exercise to see if you can decide. How about this one? 1912. Okay. So same way, you need to put 1912 and they're asking to write down the decades. So you need to write down only the decades, right? Let's see if you have 1912, how it goes. I'll just use a different color. You have 1912 and you need to decide the decades. So you just keep 10 years gap in the middle and write down the years that you have in both the sides. So it should be tens, right? So in order to be tens, if 10 is having 1 0, you need to make 1 0 here. Just this one should be 0. I'll just show you. Okay. This should be 0. So then what's your answer? It's gonna be, you will be getting 2 years. So the first year is 1 9 1 0, but make sure to make it 1 because you know that we need only 10 years. The next one should be 1920, which is 20. So now the gap is 10 and it aligns with the definition of decades. So now it's time for us, if it is decades, you need to look for the tens place and the numbers that you have in front of the tens place. But make sure we shouldn't take the first year and do that. Because why? The decade is not finished yet. Can you see it's not finished yet? So these 10 years should pass through in order to decide the decade, right? So then you need to look for the second number always and then see for the tens place, then decide whatever the numbers you have in front. So it is 192nd decades. Okay, that's how you need to decide. So you can try the rest of the questions. It is too easy because you know the basics now. Okay, and I need to tell you an important thing before you go. Right, let's just move on to these types of questions. So you have to do additions, you need to add the months and the days together. So in this case, this is easy. So you'll be doing this. And what if you get more than 30 days? What do you do then? See, in this case, you have 38 days. What do you do? Because you cannot have 38 days, right? Each month is having only 30 days. So in that case, what you can do is you just keep 8 and carry a month to the next column, right? And then you get 11 months there. So it should be 11, 8. So you need to do in that way, right? And when it comes to subtraction, let's say you will be able to do this, but here you can see we have 18 days and here 24 days. So in that case, what you need to do is we cannot do 18 minus 24 because you have 18 days and you cannot minus 24 days. It's not possible. So in that case, you can borrow 1 month. So you get 30 days. You add the 18 days, which is already given here. So then you have 48 days. Okay. So out of that 48 days, you need to minus 24 days now. Then you have 24 days left. So the answer should be here as 24. And since you borrowed a month, don't forget you borrowed a month. So this is going to be 5 minus 2, which is 3. So you need to do in that way. So when you're doing borrowing, make sure to think about the number of days that you have in a month or number of months that you have in an year and borrow it. It's not like the numbers, the normal numbers where we just borrow 10 always, right? So you cannot take, for an example, I'm saying you cannot take tens. Let's say if you have to borrow something, you cannot take tens. You cannot take a 10 because it's not 10. We have 12 months in a year. Okay, so you can recall the flow chart and then you'll be able to understand that. So I hope this part was clear. And if you have got any question, you can just drop down in the chat box during the break time. Okay, so now it's time to have a break and let's continue discussing each and every question. So the main basic concept is over. And yeah, I'll be uploading this video even in YouTube. So you can just refer these notes before the exam. Let's say you forgot the notes, you can just go through the videos before the exam. Right, so let's have a break and then be